Michelle, can you hear me? Hello, Michelle?
Yeah, yes, John, we can hear you.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Justin. Okay, so good morning, and I would like to welcome you to the 10th webinar this year. My name is John Mutua. I work at the Institute of Economic Affairs as a programs coordinator, and I also head the program on public finance management. So this morning, we will be sharing some highlights and insights on the Division of Revenue Bill 2024. As you are aware, the Institute of Economic Affairs is a think tank or research organization that promotes debate and dialogue on public policy issues. We have 6 thematic programs, and the Public Finance Management Program is one of those. And it's the program that is hosting this morning's webinar. So the IEA has over the years been tracking the budgets and just engaging on budget advocacy work. As you may be aware, the budget process is launched in August every year, and it culminates. So that's the budget preparation process. So that process is actually launched by the National Treasury in August every year, and it culminates to the budgets for the national government being tabled in Parliament by end of April. Now, of course, in between, there are a number of things that happen and a number of documents that are produced. And constitutionally, around the 15th of February, we have the budget policy statement, and I'm sure we have a couple of, there may be people who've engaged with this document already. So there are a couple of, so the budget policy statement is one of those pre-budget statements that actually informs the finalization of the budget. But there are also other documents that are produced around the same time, constitutionally around the 15th. And one of those documents is actually the Division of Revenue Bill. And so this morning we'll be discussing, or we'll have my colleague Faith Nzomo, who will be taking us through some insights of first, basically taking us through a background of what this bill is, what it is, its purpose, and the approval process. And also she will highlight some of the, some content of the bill. But specifically, we will also, she will also present some issues of concerns that we've raised and conclude with the recommendations. So the importance of this bill is that the Senate will actually, I think soon, they may have advertised today, if not today, in the course of this week, calling for the public to give its views on this bill. So I think it's pretty important that it's important that we basically engage, and we'll share some highlights that will be useful for you, whether as an institution or as an individual, in your interaction with the bill. And this will also help you in responding. If you'd like to respond or make comments or present your comments to the Senate, whether as an institution or as an individual. So without further ado, I will welcome my colleague Faith Nzomo to take us through some insights of the bill. She will take about 25 minutes, and then thereafter we'll open it up for plenary. So feel free to note whatever comments that you may have or questions in the chat box as we go along. Okay, Faith, karibu.
Thank you, John. As you've heard, my name is Faith Nzomo, and I'm going to be taking you through this analysis of the Division of Revenue Bill 2024 on behalf of the PFM program. To begin with, this is the outline of our presentation. I'll begin with the introduction of what the bill is all about, its purpose, and the process that it takes for approval, as well as the legal provisions surrounding the bill. I'll also take you through the highlights of the current bill, that is the 2024 Division of Revenue Bill, and the issues that we flagged out in the same bill, as well as and finalize with the recommendations. So, as you are all aware, the Division of Revenue Bill provides for the vertical sharing of revenue raised nationally between the two levels of government, that is the national and the county government. And the legal provisions surrounding the bill include the Article 202 of the Constitution, which requires the equitable share of revenue between the two levels of government, as well as the Article 218 of the Constitution, which requires that the bill should be tabled before Parliament at least 2 months before end of each financial year, as well, and it should be accompanied by a memorandum explaining how the division of revenue is being done, as well as in case of deviations between what Treasury has recommended and CRA has recommended, they should also outline this in the same memorandum. And in the memorandum also, they should also provide the criteria which has been followed in regards to the sharing of the revenue. The process that the bill is involved in, the approval of the bill, begins with the recommendations we received recommendations from CRA, which should be done by end of December each year. And this is provided for under Article 216 of the Constitution, as well as the Section 90 of the PFM Act. So the bill is usually prepared by the National Treasury, and as we've said earlier, it should be tabled before Parliament 2 months before end of each financial year. Parliament can approve the bill with or without amendment, and if Parliament approves the bill, it's then forwarded for Senate for consideration. So Senate can also approve or reject the bill with or without amendment. In case one of these houses, they don't agree on the recommendations or the provisions provided by the bill, then mediation takes place, and this is done by the IBEC, or the Intergovernmental Budget and Economic Council. So after the mediation, we expect that both houses will approve the bill. So after approval, it's usually forwarded by the Speaker of the National Assembly to the President for ascension. In case they don't agree after mediation, then the bill is usually defeated. On the compliance of the current 2024 bill with the Constitution, we've looked at how the bill has the preparation of the bill from recommendations provided by CRA all the way to the approval. Currently, the bill is with the Senate for consideration. So, CRA has already complied with the Constitution in regards to giving their recommendation, which was done at the end of last year. They are required to do it 6 months before end of the financial year. So they already did that in their report on recommendation on the basis of equitable sharing of revenue between the national and county governments for the financial year 2024-2025. Again, according to Article 203 of the Constitution, it's required that, Article 218 of the Constitution, it's required that the bill should be tabled before Parliament every 2 months before end of the financial year. So what we've seen is that the bill was published on 8th March, meaning that there was no enough, they couldn't table the bill before in February. So already you can see that they did not comply with the constitution. Again, Parliament received the bill on 11th of March, and the bill is supposed to have been approved by 16th of March, that is around mid-March. So if Parliament receives the bill around 11th, it means they don't have enough time to approve before 16th of March. So already we can see that they have not complied with that. And then the Parliament already approved the bill. That was done on 20th of March, and they forwarded the bill to Senate for consideration on 22nd of March. And as John has said, it's currently with the Senate, and we are awaiting for they are going to request for public participation of the same. On the key dates of the passage of the bill, we've looked at how the National Assembly, as the dates, if they have complied with the constitutional mandate on approving the bill before the mid-March, that is on 16th of March. And we've seen, with the exception of year 2022, they've not been able to pass the bill before 16th of March, meaning that when they delay with if they don't pass the bill on time, it leads to more delay since the counties are not able to budget on time because the division of revenue has not been done on time. And the next section, I'm going to take you through the highlights of the current bill, that is the Division of Revenue Bill 2024. This is what the bill contains, what Treasury has proposed, and we should note that it's usually done. Revenue sharing is calculated based on audited and approved revenues for the most recent audited and approved revenue accounts. And in the current bill, they used audited and approved revenue accounts for financial year 2020-2021, which amounted to around 1.5 trillion. So according to National Treasury, they are estimating to receive or to collect total shareable revenue amounting to around 2,948.1 billion Kenya shilling. And out of this, 2,549 is proposed to be shared to the national government, which is equivalent to around 87% of the total shareable revenue. And counties are expected to receive around 391 billion Kenya shilling, which it's around 13% of the total shareable revenue. And Article 203, Part 3 of the Constitution requires that counties should receive at least 15% of the revenue, of the revenues calculated according to the audited revenue accounts. And this, the 391.1 billion translates to 24.9% of the audited and approved revenue accounts. Next is the recommendations from Commission of Revenue Allocation, and they've recommended that, according to them, they estimate that the national government, estimated revenue to be received in the next year will be around 2,958.6 billion, and out of this, 2,552.1 billion Kenya shilling is supposed to be shared to the national government, and 398.1 billion Kenya shillings will go to counties, which is around 13%. It's almost the same in percentage form, but Treasury is proposing 391, while CRA is proposing 398.1%. So we've flagged out issues of concern from the current bill, and they are as follows. The first issue that we've noted is that despite the increment over the years, we've noticed that it's true the national government allocation to counties has been increasing in nominal terms, but when you calculate this as a percentage of total shareable revenue, we've seen that the percentage has been decreasing over the years. For instance, in 2017, counties received around 19.36% of the equity of the total national government, total shareable revenue. And in 2024, in the current bill, the proposal is that the counties will receive around 13.27%, which is a decrease from the previous years. Over the years, the rate has been decreasing, but for national government, the rate has been increasing, with the exception of the year 2021. The second issue is that the bill has been prepared they've not considered the issue of the increase in, we feel like the debt burden is being transferred to counties as seen here. The increase in debt, total public debt, in comparison to equitable share. Debt has been increasing, the debt has been increasing as a percentage of GDP, while the equitable share as a percentage of GDP is decreasing. And therefore, the debt servicing is crowding out revenue that is supposed to go to counties. Since debt servicing reduces the total shareable revenue that is supposed to go to counties. The third issue that we've flagged out is the overstatement of the DRB 2024 in compliance with Article 203. We've seen that Article 203 of the Article 203(2) of the Constitution requires that counties should receive at least 15% of the shareable revenue, based on the most recent audited revenue of accounts. Now, in the previous Division of Revenue Acts, we've noted that they have used old and dated revenue of accounts, which give higher rates in comparison to when we calculate based on the previous year's audited revenue accounts. So, for instance, in 2017, the DORA for 2017 used audited revenue accounts for year 2013-2014. And according to that year, audited revenue accounts was 935.7 Kenya shilling billions. And when you calculate this, you get a rate of 32.28%. Now, when we calculate the same based on the prior year, that is audited revenue accounts for financial year 2016-2017, we get lower rates, which means counties are receiving slightly lower rates in comparison to when you use older revenue accounts. Again, the most recent and audited revenue accounts that are available are for this financial year 2021-2022. And for the same, the rate here is 26.17%. But when you use this recent audited accounts, you get lower rate of around 18.24%. And this rate, when you compare to the rate of total equitable, it's closer to the rate of this rate here. In 2022, it's closer to this rate, meaning if you use older, it gives you a higher figure, which is not does not reflect the true value. So here we've computed the real equitable share as a percentage of audited revenue, which we feel it gives more real figures in regards to the amount that is being allocated to counties. The next issue that we were able to flag out is inconsistencies and discrepancies in the Division of Revenue Bill, and this included the different figures for road maintenance and fuel levy. This RMFL is no longer part of the equitable share, And we've seen from in the current bill, they've used different figures. Treasury has deducted around 10.9 billion, while CRA has deducted around 9.8 billion, and we are not able to know why they have different rates. Again, we've also observed a slightly higher figure for audited revenue, which Treasury said it's an overstatement of around 100 billion. And finally, we have different growth factors that both CRA and National Treasury have used in the computation of the equitable share. As you can see in this table, the Treasury has used around, they have used a growth factor of around 4.4%, while CRA used 6%, I mean 6%. And we are not able to tell why they have these different growth factors. Now we have a recommendation of the same, and the first recommendation is that we recommend that counties should receive at least 460 billion, and this is calculated based on an average of the total, the rate of equitable share as a percentage of total shareable revenue, which is around 17%. We also recommend that Senate should exercise oversight of public debt management, given their implication on the total shareable revenue. Since increase in debt has reduced the total shareable revenue, so we recommend that Senate should exercise oversight of the same. Again, the National Assembly should expedite the review and approval of the process of the approval of OAG reports, so that Treasury is able to use the most recent audited revenue accounts. Since we've seen, if they use older revenue accounts, they tend to give higher rates, which don't depict the true picture of what counties are receiving. And the approval of DORB 2024 should be contingent of the National Treasury addressing the inconsistencies that we've seen in the current bill. And that is the end of my presentation. I hand this back to John for Q&A and any comments that you might have. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Faith. That was pretty fast. For taking us through some highlights of the Division of Revenue Bill for 2024. Just as a way of summary, what we've seen in terms of background is that one, that the bill, and actually historically, there are delays actually in preparation of the bill. The constitutional mandated date is actually the 15th of Feb, but the bill was prepared several weeks later. So that's one of the issues, and of course that issue has an implication on finalization of budgets, particularly for county governments. The fact that there are delays in the preparation and approval of the bill, often counties do not know the very final figure to work with, because it's the approved figure that is then decomposed using a formula to show what equitable share will go to each of the 47 counties, and that is done through the county allocation revenue approval of that bill, county allocation revenue bill, and that's what counties use to finalize their budget. And often what we've seen is that because of those delays, sometimes counties have to actually revise their budgets a few weeks later, because the figures they used were not they worked with the previous equitable share, the equitable share for the previous year. So that's the first implication in terms of the the delays in approval of this bill as provided for in the Constitution. Then there are other issues that Faith has taken us through are basically things that we've flagged in terms of whether it's inconsistencies or discrepancies, given the figures that have been provided for. And there isn't much detail that has been provided to explain those figures. For instance, the road maintenance fuel levy, the figure that was used by CRA is different from what Treasury used, and there is no explanation of this amount. So that actually makes it difficult to know. And basically, we try to look at the estimate of revenues, loans, and grants figures. So we are not sure why those figures are actually different, because the figure it's actually supposed to be 15% of the total collections for road maintenance, fuel, road maintenance and fuel levy. So that's one of the discrepancies and inconsistencies. And then the others that were mentioned by Faith. Then obviously the main one is the issue of the amounts that have been proposed. So both the National Treasury proposed 391 billion, whereas the CRA proposed, Commission on Revenue Allocation proposed 398 billion. So so what we note obviously is that as much as the allocation or what has been approved to go to counties, if you look at the past years from 2013, in nominal terms, those figures have been going up. However, as a ratio of the total shareable revenue, we've been seeing a decline, which is contrasted by the share that has been going to the national government. So there's a contrast there. Whereas the national government share has been going up, that for the counties has been going south. So there are questions around that adequacy of equitable share. Again, obviously, when you look at you compare what has been allocated and approved actually in terms of equitable share for counties, comparing it to the GDP, again, this has been declining. So whether you compare that with the ordinary revenue or the total shareable revenue, as well as with the size of the economy, the share that has been going to the counties has been declining, and it's contrasted by that for the national government, which has been going up. So basically, it means that in the division of revenue bill, counties are actually disadvantaged, or they receive a disproportionate share. So that's one of the main things that we've noted. Obviously, the other one is there are other obligations that actually are considered and actually deducted from the total shareable revenue, and one of the main ones is public debt, and there are a couple of other obligations. There's one that is termed as a national interest, and within the national interest bracket, those things tend to vary. Some of the things that they've noted are the social safety net, primary school digital literacy program, is something they are calling national irrigation, youth empowerment, etc. So those, the national interest, the public debt, and other obligations actually, given the composition of those and their quantum, they have an implication on the total shareable revenue. And I think the one that we flagged is actually that there's no clear definition of what should constitute the national interest. In some aspects, I think it's been mentioned that the things that are captured there are aligned to better or to the medium-term plan and the current administration's priorities, but the composition of these tends to vary quite a bit, and obviously it has an implication of reducing the shareable revenue between the two levels of government. Yeah, so those are some, in a nutshell, a summary of the things that we've flagged out. And now I would like to welcome comments or questions. So feel free to either, you can raise your arm or share your comments on or questions on the chat box. So I see one from our, okay, let's see. I'm not able to see you. Please, you can unmute yourself and pose your question. I don't know, this is Brian Kibet, are you there?
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
So my question goes to Faith Nzomo from her presentation.
Yes.
In her recommendations, she suggested that the allocation to counties be increased to 460 billion. I think the recommendation will make more sense if the increase in the allocation to counties to 460 billion should be accompanied by the implementation of Schedule 4 of the Constitution, where all responsibilities that the Constitution assigns to counties should actually be devolved. That would make more sense, because an increase in revenue should be coupled with an increase in responsibilities.
Okay, thanks, Kibet. So this is still open. We'll take a couple of questions, maybe two more. Let me see whether in the chat box. So we have Kwame, our CEO. What is noted here is that the budget analysis by IEA last year reiterated the concern that the DORB process has been laden with conflicts and delays for the last 4 years. So his question is whether we think that this year's DORB has resolved these contentious issues. So Faith, I think you've noted that. Then before I go, so let me read one more from the chat box. So from Eric Musau, is the debt servicing reducing shareable revenue? Is this an actual figure or an estimate that if debt were lower, then maybe counties will get more revenue? Then his second question is, what is the problem on getting quick audits? Generally, it's always seems like audited numbers are almost always 2 years. So there's a lag of 2 years. That's what is noted. Then maybe the very final one, somebody who's put up their hand. Evans, please go ahead. You can unmute yourself.
Thank you. Confirm you can hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, I'm Evans Juma from ISPAC. There is a concern that we're trying to raise. When you look at the equalization fund, you will realize that it is designated at 7 billion, which should constitute 0.5% of the 2020-2021 audited and approved revenue. But there is a concern if you look at the Auditor General's report of 2021, if you can check it later, page 47, there is a review of the financial statements for the Equalization Fund for the year ended 30th June 2021 revealed that only an amount of 12 billion out of the expected 30 billion of the total entitlement had been transferred to the Equalization Fund account. So there is a problem here. When resources are designated for a particular purpose, then they are not remitted. There is an issue whether the government is giving us an assurance that once that money has been allocated, then it will be remitted, because it was one of the areas that was flagged by the Auditor General's report that it is not remitted. That was my concern. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Evans. Okay, so I think we can respond to those, and then we'll open it up on a second round, a second and final round. Okay, so Faith, would you like to respond to any, and then I can chip in?
Yes. Let me try and respond to Brian in regards to the why we've proposed the 460 billion to counties. So we've observed that the percentage of equitable share as a share of total shareable revenue has been reducing. From 2017 onwards, it has been going down, except for 2021. And if the same does not translate in the reduction in the responsibilities to counties. Therefore, if they are reducing the share of total equitable share to counties, then they should also reduce the responsibilities. And the 460 billion that we are proposing, we feel that it's we calculated it based on an average of that percentage of equitable share and total shareable revenue. That's why we are proposing the around 460 billion. Thank you.
Okay, I think I've done ask that question, so just a follow-up. Okay, Faith, I understand how you reached the figure. It was due to an average, but our aim is to increase the amount allocated to counties. And the easiest way to do that is to fully devolve functions such as the health sector and other functions that have been devolved by Schedule 4 of the Constitution. So I think the recommendation should not be about increasing the percentage, but about increasing the devolution of function that should be devolved in the first place, as that will automatically increase the amount allocated to counties. Usually, the amount arrived at allocated to counties cannot exceed the budget that the counties forward to the National Treasury. So if we increase functions to the counties, then it will be automatic that the counties will require more money from the National Treasury. And at the end of the day, the amount will be higher. In fact, more than that, 15%.
Hi, John, you're muted.
Sorry, I was muted. So Kibet, just to respond to your question, there are actually two issues here. The first issue is there are functions that have already been clearly defined as devolved, Of course, we still have certain functions that are yet to be unbundled, that we still have certain concurrent functions that are shared between the two levels. So that process has not been finalized. But that's a different issue. Now, for those functions that are clear, we've seen over the years different proposals or recommendations in terms of equitable share. And of course, counties have complained that what they've been receiving is not adequate to be able to provide services based on the functions that are based on the clearly devolved functions. Actually, the arguments for increase in the equitable share are also attributed to the fact that there are certain new things that have been proposed, and one of them is community health promoters. This was not there last year, but it's one of those things where I think the two levels of government are providing matching funds for this program. And there are a couple of others. I think the managed equipment services was not clear. Initially, this was to be cancelled or suspended, but apparently it was reconfigured and reintroduced, and actually counties, particularly through the Council of Governors, are actually asking for more funds. So basically what you're trying to say is that even without looking at the functions that are yet to be devolved, those contentious functions, counties are complaining that what they are receiving is inadequate. And again, what you've mentioned is that on a parity principle, the share that has been going to counties as a percentage of the shareable revenue or ordinary revenue has actually been going down. So just particularly on that basis, there's argument for the need to increase this amount from what has been proposed by Treasury as well as the CRA, and we just use that simple method that Faith has explained. And then yes, to respond to Kibet, thanks for that, for those comments, and we'll actually follow up on the equalization fund. I know there were delays in the implementation of this fund. I'm not sure for how many years. I think the government, the reason why these funds were not released in the past was that the structures and the frameworks for regulation of these funds and implementation of these funds were not had not been put in place, and hence those delays. And I think that's why we still have a lag, as you've noted. What has been transferred is 12 billion out of the 30, but we'll look into that as well. But thanks for sharing that. Then to Musau's question, yeah. So on the question of the lags in the audited and approved revenue, actually what we've noted is that whereas in the past there used to be a delay, of course, of more than 2 years. If you look at the last two, the most recent, the Auditor General's reports, I think 2021, 2022, those reports, if you take, there is usually a page where the Auditor General has appended their signature, and that date shows when the Auditor General reports was approved and submitted in Parliament. And I think that the lag has actually reduced. It's actually constitutionally, OAG is supposed to submit the Auditor General's report by end of 6 months after the end of the financial year. So that's around December. And what we've seen, I think with the most I can, but we can check and confirm. What I remember checking recently, they are about 7 months. They actually submitted it. The most recent one was submitted 7 months after the end of the financial year. That is 2022. The 2021, 2022 was actually submitted, I think around January of, so 2022 June, 2022 December, so around January or Feb of 2023. So it was basically submitted within 6 or 7 months after the end of the financial year. Now, I think the delay is actually in the approval. So it's on the part of the National Assembly. So I think the Office of the Auditor General has done quite a bit in terms of ensuring that the process of preparation, or I mean of audit and submission of these reports is not delayed. So there is need for that conversation around expediting the approval of the Auditor General's report, and that is useful in terms of providing the real figures, because what we see, given that we are using a lag of, I think, 4 years. So for the 2024 Division of Revenue Bill, the audited and approved revenue figures were for 2020, 2021. That's a lag of about more than 3 financial years. And so what they show is that the 391 billion that was proposed by Treasury is actually about 25%. So that's quite exaggerated if we used the revenues for the prior, for 2023, 2024. So of course, there's need for national conversation to try and unlock those delays. Yeah, of course, the issue of debt servicing, yeah, being as one of those items is deducted from the shareable revenue. Obviously, if we had a smaller component of debt service, that would mean that the shareable revenue would be bigger, to be shared between the two levels of government. Yeah, so that's basically what it means. And then finally, to Kwame's question, I think Faith, you provided a response. Yeah. So the problem has not been resolved. The delays, that is. So as you can see, as was presented by Faith, whereas the DRB is constitutionally supposed to be presented on the 15th, it was actually received by the National Assembly on the 11th of March, and they approved it on the 20th, and now it's currently with the Senate. So it means that that we are going to experience. I mean, this issue of delays in the ART approval process is actually a recurring challenge. Yeah. Okay, so we can move on to the second and final round of any questions or comments. And I already see one from Emily. So Emily, yes, will share a copy of the bill, but it's actually, I mean, if you Google, you can actually get it from the Kenya Law Reports. But if you Google, you'll be able to get it online. I think I will provide a link before the end of this this webinar. So I think, yes, Raphael has provided an additional comment. Yes, the OIG has actually improved in ensuring that audit reports are submitted in Parliament on time. So he's provided those two examples. The 2022-23 was tabled on the 30th of 2024. Yeah, so again, confirming what I already mentioned. So this was actually tabled on time because constitutionally, the OIG is supposed to submit the audit reports by, 6 months after the end of the financial year. So yeah, so clearly the problem is the approval process, or the time it takes to approve the Auditor General's report by the National Assembly. Do we have any final comments or questions? So we'll provide the slides. So immediately after the webinar, we'll post them on our website. So feel free to visit our website to be able to download the slides. Okay. I don't see any additional. Okay, there's maybe one more. Again from Kibet. Brian Kibet. So an early release of funds to counties will help improve absorption. Allocation is one step towards successful devolution. Release of funds is the next. Yeah. So no doubt, yeah. So Kibet, we are completely in agreement. So whenever there are delays in this process, in the approval of the Division of Revenue Bill, that also eats into the time, or basically delays preparation of county budgets, and in turn that affects budget execution. Yeah. So actually one can trace delays in disbursement to this process. Yeah. Okay. If there is no, if there are no other questions or comments, okay. As soon as I say that, so thanks, Michelle. Michelle shared the link to the slides. If we don't have any further questions or comments, then I would like to invite Faith to make to give a parting shot. Faith, any final remarks before I conclude?
Just to reiterate on what Kibet has said, that it's not only about the allocation. We also need to be vigilant on how counties' funds are being released, and this should be done on time. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Faith. Just to note, so the Institute of Economic Affairs, we already submitted our memo to the Senate, and what we heard from them is that they will soon be placing an ad, I think, in the media, inviting the public to share their comments, their views on the Division of Revenue Bill. So yes, we've already shared our slides, and we'll also share actually the link to the DORB as much as it's available online. Yeah, so thanks a lot. We'll keep tracking this process, and just to note that we'll soon have another an event basically as part of the pre-budget work. In I think towards the end of January we had pre-budget hearings that culminated in synthesis of what we call the citizen alternative budget, and so we will be launching these alternative budgets towards the end of this month. So please look out for that. We'll mention or indicate the exact date on our website and in our social media platform. So you're actually invited for that launch. Yeah, so again, thanks a lot to Faith and to everyone who spared their morning to join us in this conversation. So we still have a window to continue to engage on the DORB. There are a few things that we may not have noted, like the equalization fund. Thanks, who's that? The gentleman from ISPAC, that's Evans Juma. So we'll dig more into this and probably share an additional comment around the equalization fund. So I think it's important for us to look into that as well. Just to note, the Institute of Economic Affairs is a membership organization, and so if you'd like to be a member, membership is actually open to anyone, to individuals in whatever profession, as well as to students and corporates, and there are different benefits that accrue to those that are members. So feel free to get in touch with the IEA. You can ask for to speak to our communications team, that's Michelle or Oscar, and they'll be able to provide you with more details about membership. But we also have some information that's available on our website. Otherwise, thanks a lot, and thank you to Faith once again. I guess let's appreciate her and also appreciate ourselves for setting time this morning to engage in this important pre-budget work. Okay. Okay, thanks a lot. Let's keep the conversation going, and have yourself a good afternoon. Bye-bye.